Okay, everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome back. It's so good to be back with everyone. Today, after my break. Um, so anyhow, I'm so glad to be practicing with everyone today. And as usual, if you're new, please, just please introduce yourself in the chat so I just have a sense of who's here. And also, whenever you're ready, we can start adding prayer requests to the chat box. And if you have questions, you can just add that to the question box, which should be at the bottom of your screen, um, with the donate button and the number of people in the room. And we'll do questions at the end of tonight's practice. Once again, okay. Um, so I do have a few announcements um, about just a new program that I want to start right after New Year's. Um, and and in this, I want to just set up a series of, I don't want to call it a course, but just a series of, I guess, talks or workshops specifically about Medicine Buddha and the Medicine Buddha tradition and Tantra. And so in these workshops, I want to actually give commentary on Trungpa Rinpoche's commentary of the Medicine Buddha tradition, as well as my teacher's commentary, Lama Rod Rinpoche's commentary, that I, learned when I was studying with him. Give commentary on that, and give a commentary on the sadhana that we trained in, um, and with the Kagyu tradition, Tibetan Buddhism. So the sadhana that I practiced for years. So I want to give commentary on all of that, and it'll be split up into different sections. It won't all happen at once, but I'll do it in stages. And so, like there'll be, first stage. Maybe it'll probably be like four, kind of stages that may be spread out, maybe through the first half of next year. And my goal here is to, of course, create, a kind of an archive of commentary on this tradition, and to kind of offer insight into how I interpret this tradition. And also another big part of this is that I want to start thinking about training people to hold the space next year, so we can just continue. So I don't always have to be here. That there are people, people who are able just to do, some basic guidance around some of the practices. But I really can't do that until I begin at least this first stage of offering commentary on the tradition. So, and Medicine Buddha really isn't something that is really popular. It's not like, if you're really in Orthodox Tibetan Buddhism, it's not like Chinrezi, um, or Cha, everyone loves Cha, and so forth, right? But of course, Medicine Buddha has been really incredibly important for me as well. So, so it's good to see everyone. I see people coming into the room. I see Butterfly has joined. It's good to see you, Butterfly. I need to um, uh, reach out to you, Butterfly, as well. So I'll be doing that as well. So any prayer requests, go ahead and put those into the prayer requests. Um, Now I will be back in retreat the end of so the last 2 weeks or ish of November. I'll be back in retreats. Um, so just to let you know, and then we'll be back on hopefully in December. Uh-huh. And so again, welcome to everyone. It's not too many people who are joining that are new, I don't think, at least from what I see. But we'll be practicing soon. We'll be offering prayer requests. Again, any questions you want to put into the prayer request. I'm sorry, any questions go into the question box at the bottom of your screen. And so tonight, it's we're not going to do a whole new kind of set of practices, but I want to revisit some older practices that we've been working on quite a bit, and I want to focus on in these practices letting go. I really think it's incredibly important right now as we've transitioned through the into fall, right? At least in this hemisphere, this fall. To really think about letting go and I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I'm really interested in how we should be practicing with the seasons, right? So everything should shift with the seasons, like either the way that we're living our lives and some of the things that we're doing and eating and sleeping, all that should change with the seasons. Like we should live seasonally, right? And that's, like it's the same with our practice. And I learned that sitting in retreat, because I, wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't so distracted. So I became hypersensitive to the seasons and the change of the seasons, and I allowed my practice to change. So when I think about the fall, and this may be something I talk about in the near future, maybe even next week, because I was really obsessed with the Buddha families, the four Buddha families, and how the four Buddha families, these archetypal families that help us to understand different kinds of energies, and how they also line up with seasons. And I was, during my retreat years, really, really interested in understanding seasonal energy as it related to meditation practice and to deity practice, which is what we do. Trungpa Rinpoche really did a lot of work around understanding the five Buddha families. A really influential book for me of Trungpa Rinpoche's is called Dharma Arts, which I have. I have it somewhere. I have books spread out everywhere in this space, in this room, but I can't put my hands on it right now. But that was a really important book for me to think about seasonal energy, right? But so as we're, this beginning of fall, we're still in the early stages of fall. And so this is the season of harvest, right? So the summer, the height of the year is summer, the most efficient part of the year, where we're just like, everything's, awakened, everything's is functioning at its most efficient. Now as we come into the fall, we're trying to gather, the fruits of our labor in preparation for the winter, right? And the winter is about going inward, it's about shutting down, it's about rest, right? It's about introspection, right? And it's about preparing also for the spring. We can understand the seasons also as bardos. A bardo is an in-between state, so fall is in between summer and winter and so forth. Um, Fall is really important because this is also a period where we have really important uh, ceremonial and ritual observances across many traditions, in many cultures. I was just sitting today, like thinking about all of, all of the ceremonies and everything that I'm committed to, you know, um, really between now and really the end of the year, right? Um, you know, um, from all the Hindu festivals, that I'm a part of in my ashram, from Durga, Lakshmi pujas, the mother pujas coming up, Diwali, um, and and that's just part of it. And then we have the end of the month, the Day of the Dead, All Saints, Halloween, Samhain, at the end of this month, beginning of November. Um, and that's just like what I'm doing, you know. And then there are just, many of us are engaged in other traditions that, we're doing other things. So fall is also about this time for us to kind of stop and connect to the richness of things. As Trungpa Rinpoche talked about, it's like he talked about this fall in terms of richness. It's like this like intense, just like, abundance, right? Because it's about the harvest, right? The harvest, and gathering the harvest. And so that abundance, feeling that abundance. And I know many of us are extremely depleted as well. So this is important for us to really take seriously. Abundance practice, right? And moving past and through this, I don't know, this kind of, this sense of depletion, this sense of poverty, and to lean into the sense of there being enough, because there is enough, right? There's always enough. And that's something that I have to do every day. Sometimes I can get into the space where I'm like, oh, I need this, I need that, I don't feel well, blah, 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 I wish I had that, and I stop and I say, but, I have what I need, right? And I have more than what I need. If you see that you have more than what you need, then of course the next practice is, how can I practice generosity and to offer the access, right? What's extra, to others, So I want to do a little bit of that abundance practice, just like allowing ourselves, of course we do this, right, every session, but allowing ourselves to be saturated with care and love, allowing ourselves to drink deeply from the energy of the earth, and letting go of all the stuff that we don't need anymore, letting go of the grief, letting go of the fear, the paranoia. Many of you, energetically, you're just like, many of you, and many people in the world, at least many people that I encounter, your energetic stance right now is one of like bracing for impact, right? It's like it's almost as if you see the storm coming, right? You see something about to crash and you're bracing for that, like you're getting rigid for that, and we have to kind of let that go. You kind of have to ease out of that bracing, because it doesn't allow us to actually drink deeply from abundance of care and love and resources around us, right? As we talk about often, how can you really trust that you're going to be taken care of, right? I mean, for me, there's really no choice anymore. I choose to trust that I will be cared for, that I'm going to have what I need. And if not, right, how can I trust when it's time maybe for me to transition out of this life as well? Because there's only two choices, life or death, right? And death really actually isn't really anything, right? Even though we we feel like it's something, right? We have a lot of like memory and experience of it being something, but death is just this transition. Death isn't an end of life, right? We continue, you know. So for me, it's getting to a point, it's just saying, well, if I die, I die, and I've done enough already in this practice to feel as if I could die, with no regrets. Letting go of that fear. But we want to be in a place where we're just fearless anyway. Life or death, it just is. As my teacher would say, whatever happens, happens. Whatever happens, happens. And with whatever happening, how can you trust that you have everything that you need to navigate it? Which you do. I may not know many of you, but the ones that I know in person, right, I know that you have what you need, But we're trying to get to that basic trust again, or for the first time, maybe for some of us, trying to get to that basic trust of saying, you know what, no matter what happens, I will have what I need, And if I don't survive, how can I trust my transition from the physical world into the spirit world? And there's so much fear. Fear is the ruling energy right now in the world. And there's a really, really intense heaviness that comes with that deep fear, that deep paranoia, right? That we are really deep, like we're very deep in this period of apocalypse, right? And anything can happen. We've seen all the movies, right? We've seen all the the dystopian and the apocalyptic movies, right? We have a fair sense of what could happen. And even knowing that, how can you look into the future with a sense of fearlessness? Because ultimately, what is this? What is the relative world if not this expression of an illusion, right? As we would say, right, in Vajrayana, this is the arising of Dharmakaya, right, of emptiness, right? This is a dream. Not only is it a dream, it's not where we belong. This is not our home. The mind is our home, right? The nature of our mind is our home, but the illusion, this world, the samsara, this is not our home. But the point of all these practices, the point of Tantra, which is where my experience mostly is in Tantra, is the point of Tantra is to help us to understand, where our homes really are. Where is home? You know, now I've often said that, oh, we should make a home, right, in the chaos, but it doesn't mean that I'm okay with the chaos. It means that, like, this is what I'm moving through right now, so I want to be present for it. Not only do I want to be present for it, I want to develop an authentic love for the chaos, right? A true love. Not again, not this kind of clingy, fixated kind of stuff. Right? When I say love, I mean the, like, how do you just accept something? And in accepting it, how do you just free it in that moment? When you let something be in its place, you begin to free it. You begin to free your fixation from it, actually. Your freedom from fixation is the same thing as freeing the thing itself, right? But we have to accept it, though. Like, you have to accept that the world is as it is right now. And of course, I've said this many times, to do that, you have to allow your heart to break. And you have to move through this very desolate landscape of hopelessness and delusion. Which is actually where I'm writing about right now. I've been writing today, working on the book. Talking about how the most challenging part of our practice is this collision of the relative and the absolute together. Because many of us, we're in this romantic relationship with the absolute, right? Which is just a way of bypassing the relative. But when the absolute collides back with the relative, you're jolted and you fall back into the relative world, the messiness of the relative world, right? But as you fall back, ideally you're taking the view of the absolute with you. So you're in the relative, but you have the absolute view. But when we get jolted in that moment, we lose the view, and then we get swallowed, we get consumed by the relative world, right? By the hopelessness and the despair. Instead of holding on to the view that all this is arising from emptiness itself, that I'm creating this as I'm moving through this. And and when I've sat with many people as the relative and the absolute collide together, and it's it's make or break, right? And a really tangible example of this collision is teacher abuse. When you think someone's super enlightened and you realize that they're creating a lot of violence, that's an example. Another example is like, when we realize that to get enlightened is actually a whole bunch of fucking work. And then you get into that hopelessness. It's like, then why am I doing it then? If this is going to take forever, then why do it? That's an example that disrupts us. And I think that, just from my years of practice, I know, there are people in this space that have been practicing since before I was born, right? Of course, I'm only 29, right? So that's not been that long of practice. But, I think some older practitioners and more experienced practitioners can tell you about their experiences of working through these pitfalls, like these collisions, what happens. I mean, when this has happened to people, I know people who have just completely given up their practice. They've been like, fuck this. It's been book burnings. Literally, I know people who have been, they couldn't manage this collision, and they've burnt their Dharma books, or they've given everything away. People call me, they're like, I don't, I'm not doing this anymore. Do you want my stuff? Do you want my Dharma books? I'm like, no, I do not. I do not want any more Dharma books. you know, um, I am over Dharma books. I'm almost over my Dharma books, right? The books that I've written. Um, and it's hard. And some people come back, right? Some people bounce back. Some people don't. You know. But that's the reality of working a spiritual path. Working through it, doing it wrong, whatever. Like moving along a spiritual path. That's the reality, right? And it's this collision is so jolting because it's so easy for us to drift off into the sweetness of the absolute. Right? Because yes, the world is like bullshit. Mm-hmm. Right? And why can't we get a break from this? Right? Why can't we get a break? Right? But it's you have to earn. Like you just can't skip into the absolute. You have to earn the view of the absolute. Right? You just don't choose it. Like you have to work the relative and understand the relative and allow the relative to begin to open up the awareness of the absolute. So you stay on the ground, you stay with the earth, right? But your view becomes pure. Becomes spacious, right? But you have to stay on the ground to earn that view. Like you don't go and practice in the relative, in the absolute, right? Which I never could. Like I talk about this. I've never had that experience. Actually, like I've always been very much in the relative practicing. Because when I came to practice, like really, 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 really seriously practicing, I had worked through so much of my, I guess, confusion around the relative. Like I wasn't trying to bypass the world. I appreciated the world. I appreciated the work that it took to be in the world, right? And I inherently knew that it was important to do this work. It was important to understand identity. It was important to work through systems of violence, right? It was important, to do, the basic work of the relative. You all know that, right? Like that was important. I wasn't trying to bypass anything, right? And even in my more advanced practices, that are about going into the absolute, it's like it's not that interesting, actually, for me. The ultimate or the absolutism, says, oh, this is great, emptiness, great, wonderful, But what I'm more interested in is how do I bring this view back to the world and live more freely, helping others to live freely. That's what I'm interested in. Visiting the absolute but coming back to the relative, right? And trying to put the relative into practice. Or we're trying to put the absolute into practice within the relative world. But it just, this is about work and labor, right? And I know so many of you are tired of working, but what Dharma does, it teaches us to work much more efficiently, right? And it teaches us to, it teaches us how to protect our energy as we're trying to figure this out. And that's what many of us are really needing, ways to protect our energy as we do this labor. And again, it's about letting go, giving up. You're not giving up, but giving things up. Particularly things that we just don't need. Things that we don't need to be involved in, things that we don't need to know. Taking on energies and situations that just aren't ours to deal with, right? And what my retreat time away has, one of the teachings that I got in my time away is that I don't have to get involved with everything. Everything isn't my business, right? Everything isn't my work to do. And quite frankly, I'm not really interested in trying to propagate anything, which, I've already said that. I've been saying that for years. I'm just not interested in trying to convince people to get on the boat. Either you get on the boat or not, but I'm not in this boat, meaning this boat going towards, whatever freedom realization, right? I'm not interested. If you're not interested, I'm not interested. As bodhisattvas, we take a pledge, and this is what my book is about, right? My new book is about the bodhisattvas, the bodhisattva vow, but I don't know. I'm just not interested in trying to save people who aren't interested in wanting to be saved. Actually, I'm going to take a really heavy pass on that and go whatever. If you don't want to be saved, I'm not the one who's going to drag you, because you can't. Freedom has to be a consensual thing. I have to consent to get free, right? Because I have to do individual labor to bring about this kind of freedom, right? And when I say freedom, it's particularly talking about freedom from duality, freedom from the binary, right? The freedom to come into the middle, right? And to see everything as it is, where you begin to see the nature of love and hate is really the same nature, And again, that's the arising of the Dharmakaya, of emptiness, the essence of emptiness. Freedom is when we begin to develop a relationship with the essence of everything. And the essence of everything is the same. It's just one essence. When you begin to develop a relationship to that, that's when you're getting free. So in any case, that's what I think that should be our project. That kind of framing. This is what we're trying to do. It's understand that the absolute can begin to flower, can begin to blossom within the relative. That we don't have to go anywhere to do any of that, right? We just have to work the path of the relative. And this is why Dharma is so brilliant in that way, because it's a relative path that leads to the absolute. That you have to work the relative path. Right? And we're all going to get free at different points. And at different times, some of us are really, really close. Some of us aren't as close, but if you're in this space tonight, if you're here practicing, then you should understand that like you're closer than you realize. You know, like you're moving pretty quickly if you're doing this stuff. So in any case, let's start practice. Let's get into our practice tonight, and we'll probably go to about 8:15 or so. So as always, let's just allow ourselves to come into a position that feels appropriate for practice. We can begin, by just locating ourselves. When I say locate, I mean that like we're just naming where we're at. It's like a check-in, really. Like, where are we at? How are we feeling? What's coming up for me in this moment? What's happening in my body? What's happening in my mind? That locating ourselves, because that's a method of coming back to the relative, right? To the ground. Right. When you're ready, turning your attention into just reflecting on your intentions for practice. Why are you practicing? And if you have a devotion practice, right? So if you're tied to, lineage or a teacher or, whatever it may be, just reflect. Just reflect on that devotion. That devotion is actually love, is appreciation, right, for the teachings. So allowing that appreciation, that love to begin to awaken right now. When you're ready, moving on to our dedication of merits. So reflecting on how anything that feels beneficial for us, that we're going to instantly offer it out to all beings. And throughout the practice, like whenever you feel like something has really been beneficial for you, just take a moment and say, and may all beings experience this. Doing this in practice, doing this in just throughout your day when you experience something pleasant, really begins to help us experience spaciousness of the mind. It's sympathetic joy practice, giving away. Right? When I feel joy, I give it away. And giving it away, that act of generosity actually helps us to dissolve fixation on this phenomena in joy. When we dissolve fixation, we realize that the mind is just simply joyful anyway. And it's the fixation and the contraction that creates the illusion of there not being joy, or anything else pleasant in the mind. The practice is about opening, expanding into these experiences through generosity and empathy, thinking of others, giving away what seems precious for us. So we're going to transition to the breath. If you're not able to be with the breath, just shift your attention down to the weight of the body making contact with the seats. If you're able to be with the breath, just beginning to notice the in-breath and the out-breath. Shifting attention now to the heart center, beginning to breathe in and out of the heart center. And even now, as we exhale, I want you to start exhaling out the shit that you don't really need right now. So exhaling out, releasing fear, anxiety, worry, paranoia. And again, it's about generosity. And in this moment, it's I want to be generous with myself and release myself from these experiences of discomfort. So breathing deeply into where we are experiencing these energies, letting the in-breath dissolve these energies and just releasing out. Breathing deeply in and releasing out. And if you want to go just a little bit further with that, on the exhale, I want you to add some sound. And I want you to, don't think about it. Don't think about the sound and think about where it's coming from. Just adding sound, because the vibrations of the tones that we're making will actually begin to loosen up things, within the energy body. And I want you to do this often, in your private time and practice. Here's an example. So breathing deeply in and then exhaling with the tone. And just keep doing this. We're going to do this just for 2 minutes, right? So breathing deeply in, releasing. And when you're exhaling, I want you to notice where you're feeling the vibrations of that sound. Where in the body. Again, another minute and a half. And you can just do this, on your own. I won't continue to do it. And just another minute. In a couple of seconds. Okay. Coming back to a natural breath. So we're going to shift now, and I invite you to begin to call into your space your homecoming circle, your benefactor circle. So all the beings who love you, who are caring for you, and allowing that circle to form around you, and eventually beginning to feel like that expression of care, the radiation of care into the space around you. Just taking a few moments to work through that practice up to that point. Right, and so once you've gotten your homecoming circle, feeling this kind of radiance of care around you, I invite you to imagine that you begin to inhale this energy of care into every opening pore of your body and your skin. So it's as if you're breathing, inhaling this energy of care in from every inch of surface of your body, right? So you're absorbing this, like with the in-breath, you're absorbing, it's like your skin is breathing in this energy of care. And breathe deeply as if you're drinking deeply, right? So like this deep inhale. And if you're not able to be with the breath, just imagining that you're just absorbing this energy of care. So adding another piece to this is as we're inhaling deeply, like inhaling this care, as we exhale, we're letting go again of everything that we don't need, right? The fear, the anxiety, the worry, the grief, the exhaustion. So breathing in care, exhaling what we don't need. And actually, as we move deeper into this practice, we'll actually introduce our mantra, the mantra practice as well. So as we're moving through the mantra, we're just doing this practice, inhaling deeply in, exhaling out what we don't need. Right. The Medicine Buddha mantra, Teya cha bekenze, maha bekenze, raza sumungate soha. So we're just continuing with this practice. We do about 5 minutes of this first stage of practice with the mantra. Okay? O Teya cha bekenze, ma bekenze, raza sumungate soha. Teya cha So continuing with the practice, I just want to offer our prayer request. And so as I offer the prayer request, I invite you to imagine as you're breathing in this care, right, from your circle of care, that you're also, as you're breathing it in also into the lives and experiences of those whom we're offering prayers for. Okay? So their lives, their situations, no matter what's happening, are being infused with this energy of care that we're inhaling, right? And so turning to our prayer requests, I evoke all of our sources of refuge, the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the Yidams, the Dharma protectors, all benevolent spirits, the protectors and guides of the earth, all benevolent ancestors and guiding spirits, angels, gods, and deities. We ask you to hear these prayers as we offer these prayers in our practice, and to move on our behalves, to bring about the best possible situation for those we're offering prayers for. Knowing that our ultimate prayer is for the liberation of all beings into enlightenment. We begin to offer prayers for my mother Carol and her journey through the Bardo, and she passed away in May. We're offering prayers for Calivia, recovering from surgery. Offering prayers of strength, healing, and light, and some relief for my grandmother, Laura, who may be diagnosed with bone marrow cancer tomorrow. Prayers for Willie, who recently passed. Offering prayers for the horrific oil spill on the Southern California coast. Prayers for all life that has been affected by this disaster. Prayers for the animals who are suffering. Offering prayers for Nancy and her beloved dog Cody as he makes his way to the other side this Wednesday. Prayers for beings who have internalized negative messages from our sick systems to heal and find ways. There are medicines for creating systems of care and connection. Offering prayers for all those who have ever been trafficked. Prayers to all those that are suicidal, especially those in high school and college who feel a lot of heaviness in life. Offering prayers for everyone who is exhausted. Prayers for my mother as she continues to work with incredibly challenging and intense situations and energy. Offering prayers for my mind and body as the seasons changes. Offering prayers for the water and beings affected by the recent oil spill in Southern California. Offering prayers for Ray, whose mother recently died, and his family and his mother in the Bardo. Prayers for Rowan as he continues to live with cancer. Prayers for my grandmother as she heals from her fractured femur. Prayers for healthcare workers as they continue to care for those with COVID. Prayers for this gorgeous Sangha. And prayers for Lama Rod. Offering prayers of kindness for myself. I'm tired, feeling tired by others' struggles and how they impact me, and a bit worn by being human. Prayers for New Orleans and the people in the land of South Louisiana and their continued recovery. Offering prayers for students and teachers in school during this intense time, and prayers, please, for my chronic conditions and all those struggling with ongoing illness. Offering prayer for Reed, who is having open heart surgery. Prayers for all students and their teachers facing pressure at this time. May they be free. Prayers for Connie and her recovery from intestinal illness. Prayers for the people of Afghanistan. Prayers for Shaya Eisenberg and his wife Bahira, and also Chava in Bali. We're offering prayers for John, who is in critical condition with little brain activity, Bruce, who is recovering from surgery, and for Bobby, who is recovering from a fractured leg. Offering prayers for safe passage through the Bardos for Tom L. Bolesley and Aaron A. Howard, and comfort for their families and loved ones. Offering prayers for granddaughter Sierra Kaplan, who is homeless, missing, and addicted. Offering prayer for Carolina, who has brainstem cancer and just had a baby, and for our planet, which is suffering. And prayers for my dad and his new diagnosis of heart failure. Offering prayers for my grandma's pain, relief from multiple rib fractures, and prayers for everyone facing cancer. And I continue to offer prayers for my uncle, who will be undergoing heart surgery soon. Prayers for Mike, for Gopi Ma. Offering prayers for all people who are struggling within systems of abuse. That we all may be free, and that all forms of suffering will be eradicated. And I pray for all benevolent beings in the universe to come to this world to aid us, to support this world as we transition into a new way of being. That we have the energy and the vision and the support and all the resources that we need to make this journey. That we all may be free as quickly as possible. So as we transition back into the last part of our mantra practice, as we're sending energy to all those prayers that we've offered, I want to add just one more practice, which is optional. And I invite you to imagine that as your circle of benefactors, your care circle, is offering this care to you, I want you to imagine that this energy of care specifically becomes something that you need. So maybe this energy of care that's radiating from your circle actually becomes just energy, vibrancy that you may need, and so you begin to absorb that, to breathe that into the body. Maybe this energy is wisdom and clarity, so you begin to breathe that. Whatever it is you need Allow that energy to become what you need and deeply absorb that. Okay? So we begin again. Te ata bacon say, ma bacon say, rasa sumungate. So, o te ata bacon say, ma bacon say, rasa sumungate. So, te ata Begenze, Mahabegenze, Razasumungate Soha, Teata Begenze, Begenze, Mahabegenze, Razasumungate Soha. So taking in a final absorption, inhale of what you need. And as you exhale, dedicating the benefits of getting what you need to the liberation of all those we've offered prayers for tonight. So turning our attention back to our our benefactor circle, thanking our circle for their care and kindness for us. Begin to imagine that they begin to dissolve into white light. That white light is absorbed into our heart centers. Returning to a natural breath, shifting our attention also down to the seat, noticing the weight of our body, making contact with the seat. And again, as we make contact with this anchoring, we also pray that all beings may experience groundedness in this moment. Now turning our attention to Shantideva's prayer. You should find it in the chat box there. We'll recite the prayer 3 times together as a dedication, a final dedication of our practice tonight. And we begin. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. And may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of all life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. And may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I always be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. And may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, May I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. All right. Thank you all so much for the practice in this session, and we'll be back again next week. For those of you who are new, just remember that you can always come back and view this session and any session we've done on this platform as well. Okay. And if there aren't any other questions, we will begin to sign off for tonight as well. So thank you everyone again for your practice. Please continue to practice through the week. Please continue to take care of yourself as well. And I will see you all again soon. All right. Thank you everyone.